Portal to Ascension has opened up amazing avenues for me to meet people, and having the privilege to have been in San Diego and meeting people that I just known as thumbnails, to actually meet them in the flesh. That was one of the greatest thrills of my life, to be involved with Neil, with Joan, Alan, the best man on my wedding, God bless him. To be involved in Portal to Ascension, these R's, and that's why this talk tonight is about the actual portals to ascension. And yes, there are physical stargates that look like the one behind you. If you can't go through a actual interdimensional stargate, yes, you can build them physically. And it just turns out that they look just like how they're portrayed in SG-1. And they're very, very expensive to build. You have to mine a lot of these rare earth elements off planet. And they're very, very expensive, but they actually do look like when you actually build them physically.
Have you watched Thor? You know, the Stargate and Thor, the Rainbow Bridge. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, that resonates really true, actually, from all the research, the people that are coming out talking about Stargates, right? Like the realm of the gods coming down to Earth.
Yeah, this is it. And remember also that there are a lot of the Pleiadian, Syrian, Anunnaki, Niburian Anunnaki that have loved to portray themselves as our creator gods.
Yeah.
And they're in large part responsible for a lot of these control paradigms, that some of it we get through organized religion and whatnot, the gods of Olympus, the gods of Asgard, you know. We really have to understand, and we have to become self-empowered and understand more about our true origins. And I think that, and I look at what's going on with Portal to Ascension, and I think it is such a great gift. I look at all the offerings that Portal to Ascension is making available for people. It just covers practically everything.
That's a lot. Well,
tomorrow I really
we're
have
doing,
to hand it to you.
So tomorrow we're doing a webinar with Craig Campoboso called the 82 Extraterrestrial Species That Shape Our Universe. And it's like, you know, the more and more we get into this, the more he's going to go over 82 different races and their interactions with Earth. So we're really going deeper into these topics, right?
There are some major, I mean, you got on people, you don't have to, but euphemistically speaking, people have to understand that our history is so huge, it's so complex, you know.
Right.
We can talk about the major players in this, but for 950 billion years of history, 560 million years of history, hundreds of thousands of years dotted by triumphs, tragedies, joy, pain. It's incredibly complex. The fact that we can even start to penetrate the veils is an amazing thing. And Portal to Ascension, I'm really proud and humbled and privileged to say, to be part of this, part of this ongoing fellowship, is really, it's a privilege for me, and I can't help but being just perpetually humbled and grateful just for the opportunity that you've given me.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you, and I feel the same way about our history and antiquity. Like, sometimes I take a moment just to like ponder and feel into the vastness of what we have done and where we have been throughout the cosmos, not just our souls, but our physical ancestors incarnating and traveling through dimensions, through planetary systems to make our way here. Like, the story of humanity and how we got here is the greatest story ever told. And when we start realizing how deep it goes and how incredible epic it really is, like, I feel it's just going to inspire so much awe in everyone, right? And hopefully lead to a state where we've realized how powerful and how rich we really are.
That's right. You know, when the planetary core conditions are right, as we're in this cycle, amazing things are taking place within us, within the planet, involving the electromagnetic orbital alignments between central suns and our various star systems, the planet, the gates of light within us. Everything is activating now. It's amazing. We're experiencing now what is almost we have no references in our written histories, you know, except what we've been managed to just eke out, or those of us that have been in the teachings for a while or have been fortunate enough to have amazing teachers or walk-in experiences, and it's all meant to be shared. You know, they say in the Pissa Sophia, the greatest sin is not to share knowledge, you know? And I think this is why we're here. We're really I like to say that we're feathers in each other's wings. We're here for each other. We're here to really come into a state of full awakening, full embodiment, we're here as the revealing vehicles and the pathfinders of God's grace into this world. And I think doing a pretty darn good job, considering we've been given so much and so relatively little time. And we have all the time in the world, but we're being given so much, you know. And I think a lot of these people, a lot of you out there are fortunate enough to have created positions and circumstances for yourself that you can devote the time necessary to really going into deep into these teachings and to avail yourself of what's really a possible being made possible by Portal to Ascension, Galactic, Wish Alliance, the CAN networks, and all these wonderful outlets and inlets we have to really come into full self-realization.
Yeah, I feel like we are doing so well when kind of the cards were stacked against us in many ways, and we were wiped clean. Our memories were wiped clean. You know, something I've been saying lately is that the spark of source is so strong within us that even though we had our consciousness wiped clean of the memories of our connection to it, we still wake up. It's just like, it's inevitable. It's just the light will always prevail, and it's just waking us up no matter where we're at within our consciousness. And so that's why
you're like Rudolf Steiner returned. It said in moment where our movement is always towards grace. Our movement we can't help it. Our movement is always towards grace. And in those moments of grace, we remember.
Wow. Well, it's almost, that sounds like almost like, because if it's a dualistic universe and we go back and forth from darkness to light, how is it that we end up becoming a positive universe? And I think it's that everything always moves towards harmony, right? And that's the same thing, like you said right there. No matter what, everything wants to be in harmony, and harmony tends to actually be a positive experience for the collective.
Our natural movement, what seems like chaos at street level, when you reach that exalted, elevated state, you see how perfectly ordered things are. And our movement, like you said, is always towards a state of harmony, greater harmony and greater order. Yeah.
So I have some more questions if you want to go over them. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, okay.
Unless you're tired. We don't have to stop. We can keep going.
I'll go for a little while longer.
Yeah, let's just see. We can do rapid fire if you want. All right, so the draconians, right? I want to talk about that. Are draconians specifically reptilian races?
Yeah, there's the difference between the Dracon and the Dracos. The Dracon is pure reptilian, draconian. Many of their home planets in the Orion system. And again, the planetary gates that lead directly to the access their home worlds in Iran, in Iraq. That's what we're doing there when you look at the higher agendas. And again, it's important to understand, and I'm glad somebody brought this up, because the truth is we don't look at them. As I said before, the real healing of all this is understanding and acknowledging the common core of creation from which we all evolved. They have forgotten through their digression, through their improper hybridization programs and inbreeding, they've lost a lot of their coding that they can't connect to their own Christos. And the fact is that they blame us for that, you know, and not realizing that in their agenda, their Black Sun agenda to wipe us off the face of the planet, they're wiping out their best chance of redemption. But they don't see it that way. They don't, for the people out there that are still intent on sending them love and light and everything, well, that's cool. I'm still in favor of doing that, but also realize at the same time, they can't accept it. They don't have the emotional bodies that can even understand or translate or transduce the love that we send them, you know? But saying that being said, we don't see them as negative and we don't see them as evil. That's a very important understanding, distinction to make. when
So
we
I
talk about the Dracos. And again, the Dracos, Dracon, oh yeah, the Dracos is a reptilian human hybrid. And you can tell when you have experience with these that they look more humanoid, they look more human features. And those are the ones that you can reach. If we can reach a certain percentage of the belly Kudim, the ones that have, see, the Dracos can't ascend in this lifetime. If you're an incarnate, what we call the children of the black sun, we know who they are on this planet. What they need to do, they need to die in this life. They need to pass on and hopefully get what's called a host matrix. This is what the Egyptian and Tibetan books of the dead and the further translations of the pyramid texts in Saqqara, they teach how to create this host matrix. So if you are an incarnate of a black sun family, that you can incarnate into a body that has some of the diamond coating. That maybe in a set of incarnations after that, you can incarnate into a full diamond sun body, the full 12-strand body. They've lost their capstone codes. And the only way they can get it is through what they call a host matrix. Yeah.
Okay, so the reptilian human hybrids that may have nefarious agendas are ones that we can reach and bring harmony to, send them light, right?
Yeah, again, it's a matter of we share coding with all of them.
Yeah,
and this was the gift of the creation of the original Adamic races, that through interbreeding and intermarriage, we could get them their diamond codes back. They are what's called the silicate matrix, the 12-strand DNA pattern that we were gifted with as angelic humans. And our founders' races, the Orphim, we have the full lineages. This is why I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. It's tomorrow. So if anybody's on the fence about registering for, it's tomorrow, is it?
Yeah.
This would be just the greatest follow-up.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I'm thinking. It's like
it's just, it's really, there are forces at work here that we're conscious and also unconscious of that are really steering us in the right direction. We're giving people the best we can to expand their understanding of where we come from, why we're here, and what we're supposed to do here. It's the greatest knowledge of all. It's the greatest gift that we're being given, that we can give to ourselves.
So I heard once just from one person that kind of just like shifted my belief around it entirely, because you know I was always told before that the Orion Wars were reptilians versus humans, and that it was like a foreign invasion from outside of Orion into Orion. But then I forget who it was, but I heard that it was actually reptilians and humans against reptilians and humans, that it wasn't just between races.
They're in the Vril women, you know, Maria Orsic, these were, they claimed, this is, if people will email me, or if I can get a list, I will send them a few articles I wrote that gets to the heart of this question, where these Vril women, like Maria Orsic and others, that claim that they were channeling Aldebaran intelligence from the star Aldebra and a planet that revolves around the star Aldebra called Sumera. And there's, if you understand the connection with this Aldebaran gate, the connection with the Orion gates, the Andromedan gates, you understand the source of a lot of these conflicts that are manifesting right here on our planet, like even up to the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, because the star, the gate, the vortex that's supposed to close and close on time this year, starting last year, this year into next year, is based in Russia, in the Caucasus, but has many access, secondary and tertiary chakras in the Ukraine. So when you look at the location of these stargates, and it would be very good for people to study these charts, it really makes sense of a lot of these conflicts where they're sourced. The Earth, once again, is the staging ground of conflicts that go back so far in our history that we really have very little written references, except, although I was going to show, it's too late to show it now, but you know, I think even Greg Brayton, many years ago, he got to take photographs of these underground libraries, usually under monasteries. in the Himalayas. I've seen them. I haven't gotten into the Vatican, the apostolic archives yet. I'm hoping one day to get into them. But in the time since, I have seen underground libraries, networks of libraries that make the Vatican apostolic archives look like your neighborhood library. And these are translations and retranslations of the eternal Torah text, which I believe is the foundation and the source of all our higher information. And they're kept in very, very close guard, because in certain times in our history, the science of the stargates and the science of ascension, they've been misused by beings that had affiliations with Anunnaki, usually from Pleiadian and Syrian Nibiru. As the Nephilim, actually, the origin of the Nephilim and the fallen angelics, the Pleiadian Syrian are a hybrid race, a Pleiadian Syrian Anunnaki. And this is why the Benjaminite women, this is why the Magdalens and the Marys, they're so prized. This is why they were chosen from when they were young to serve as these sacred servants, these sacred prostitutes, these sacred whores, divine ones in the temples, because they were the offspring called the Raphaim. They were the offspring of human females and angelics, fallen angelics. But because they were hybrids, they had expanded genetic codes. That's why they were chosen to be these temple priestesses. Because of their expanded genetic codes, they were able to generate very exotic biochemistries and elements in their body that could assist in and facilitate the process of ascension. And when you go to Galilee,
through so you mean literal prostitution, right? Like through sexual acts, they were able to do this.
Yeah, and that's why in the temple, that's why sex was so sacred. That when you would do this in the Holy of Holies or the Hole of Holes in the temple to give someone a taste of the Christos. And it's so amazing that even in the modern day, the male psyche is still the impulse is still to go to these temples of divine spiritual science, but they're brothels now. So everything has become prostituted. The original meaning of the word prostitute is a woman who is sovereign unto herself. That's not under the thumb of a man. And the word whore is divine child, like Horus. So all of these things have been, they themselves have been, the concepts have been prostituted and trivialized and minimized and lessened and darkened. When they were beautiful, when they originally, they were for the ascension of the planet.
Yeah, man, I'm getting activations. You're saying a lot of good stuff. Just 3 things that you said that I want to talk about. Can we have 10 more minutes, Phil?
Sure.
All right. Okay. So first was, I felt like, that Earth is kind of working out karma, and all these wars, terrorism, all this stuff is the karma of the galaxy. But from where you're putting it, it seems like all the races that were at war with each other were put on Earth and forgot about those wars, but subconsciously are still battling it out.
Yeah. It's so you said it, you hit the nail on the head.
It's like putting 2 kids that are arguing with each other in one room to work it out until they beat each other until they finally get exhausted from hitting each other.
That's it. That's the essence of the shadow. That's why the shadow is so difficult to heal, to integrate, to even invite to integrate, because the subpersonality fragments that we understand as the shadow, elemental figment attachments, they started when we were children. So they're still children. And like 2- and 3-year-olds, they're very territorial. They don't want to give up their sense of identity. That's why it's very hard. We have techniques in the mentorship and other programs to deal with the shadow, to deal with these unresolved subpersonality fragments, and to deal with them as children, because they still are children. They manifested in us when we were children, when we didn't have the consciousness to understand that they were just survival techniques at the time, but they are no use to us now. Just like as we grow and evolve, there are things that we will have to jettison. We'll have to have courage and bravery to let go of the things that don't serve us. That may have served us, may have helped to get us to the point where we realize that now we're on the upward spiral. And if they're not willing, even the shadow, to walk with us, we have to just say bye and good luck, because there's no turning back now. We've just come too far. But like you said, it's so these memories are so deeply embedded, but also the good memories too that can be accessed. Memories of joy, memories of triumph, memories of love that knows no earthly bounds. We can feel that. We have the DNA activated that we can feel the love that angels feel for each other, that even that Christ avatars feel for each other. And that's a really special, that's a groovy kind of love.
My passive regression that I had when I was on the portal planet in Orion, basically I saw myself in a war, and it was like the wars in Orion were coming to an end. And the spaceship landed on my planet, and I'm like the guy in Thor at the front of the gate, like sitting there with my armor protecting the gate. And then all of a sudden there's this huge war that breaks out, and they're like shooting, and I'm like trying to avoid them and shooting back, and there's this huge war with people on my side and the other side. And then they overpower us, and they go through the portal. And what I got in that moment was they thought they were going to remember. They thought they were leaving and that they wouldn't forget. And they came to Earth and they forgot. But they subconsciously had the same program in them that they continued living it out cycle after cycle for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, it's called, we used to call it the Pleiadian loop. That's another thing for another time, but you're right, you're exactly right. They don't realize that when they get done with energy revamping off of consciousness that's trapped in time, then they go into states of auto-cannibalism. And then they go into states of feeding off themselves. And when they're done feeding off themselves, what they do is they create a phantom black hole matrix. Hold on one second. Like I said before at the beginning, I was really lucky to come into her life when I did. If you're familiar with Voyagers, The Secrets of Amenti, the chronologies in this book, if you want to talk about the wars and all the classifications, I had never seen more. When the Amenti information came in, and I was gifted enough to write the preface to this. First edition came out in 1999. This is the Voyagers Volume 2, Secrets of Amenti. The complexity and the denseness and the level of detail in terms of understanding the wars and the lineages, and it's as complex as it is, it still only touches a fraction, but it's a big piece of our hidden, until now, history.
Wow.
And then when we understand this, we understand that the past is prelude, that if we don't learn from these mistakes that we've made, mainly, I think, Neil, don't you think, mainly through ignorance and naivete. We're not evil. We're not intrinsically evil. And our gift is that we don't see them as enemy. We don't see them as adversaries or antagonists. We see them as part of the whole. Of course, we're not going to lay down and prostrate ourselves before them. But at the same time, there's a time for soft love and a time for tough love.
Yeah.
And some people, you got to give the tough love until they can be receptive enough for the soft love.
Right.
And we need to know which is which.
A lot of these beings, if not all of them, are traumatized, right? And they have a lack of love. They have deep wounds that they got stuck into for maybe millions of years. And it gets to a point where they're just basically children, as you said, with adult bodies, with adult weapons. They're like a hurt kid going, I want my toy, to oversimplify it. And ultimately they have the tools in order to control and do these other things. But ultimately all they needed was to be understood, seen, and loved. I feel that's what most people, even on Earth, want.
That's exactly it. Their pain is so great. I work with I just got back from LA a while back and starting to work with Homeboy Industries with Father Greg Doyle, who works with rehabilitating gangs. Some of the most violent gangs, the Bloods, the Crips, the 18th Streeters.
Yeah.
And they're not running towards something, they're running away from something. Their pain, their abuse is so great. You hear them talk. And all they want to do is hate, because that's all they've known. And it's the same thing with the children of the Black Sun. They're abused, self-abuse, and having been abused is so great. That is all they know. And they need love probably just as much or more than anyone.
Yeah.
And that's the final, one of the final tests in our baptisms, to see if we're advanced and evolved enough to be able to understand and forgive for those who in their naivete or ignorance or just plain stupidity or plain evil.
Yeah.
We understand that their redemption may not come in this world, but in the world to come, but we still pray for them.
Yeah, and we got to understand, a lot of people think forgiveness is ignoring the atrocities, and you can still forgive and still hold those accountable for what they've done.
Yeah. That's right. They need to be held accountable. We forgive, but we don't forget, because we don't want this to happen again. We look at what humanity is capable of on the plus side and on the minus side. It's just an amazing, and I love that you emphasize just the rich complexity, the richness of our lives, and how rich our lives can be right here, right now. It can happen. It can happen for us right here, right now.
Yeah.
It can happen for all of us. We can know the full, like I said, we can know the full revelation of ourselves tonight in these last 2 hours. For some of us, it's deep. For some of us, it's an intro. For some of us, it's always a challenge, because you know me, I don't like to hold back, but I also have to understand, and people also, and I hope they understand, if they feel anything, they know it's coming from my heart.
Right.
They know that I love them so much, and I have so much love and gratitude for all the gifts that I've been given, and for the opportunity to be able to share these gifts. I'm just in a constant state of humility, and thankfulness. And I think that's probably a great place to
No,
end
let's not end. No.
Yeah.
We have 2 more minutes. You said 10 minutes.
Okay, 2 more minutes. That's right.
Wait,
2
I gotta
minutes.
ask you to answer them quickly, because I want to ask you all these.
Okay.
Are they soulless? Are they soulless ones?
No. You can lose your connection. That silver thread that connects you to your soul identities, that can be cut, that can be severed. For most people, it's not a matter of it being severed, but being non-acknowledged, that we have a higher identity. The Doctor's Hertak in the Keys of Enoch, yes, we must remember that we come from a higher blueprint, a divine blueprint. Even in the Gospel of Mary, Jesus asked Mary, where are your roots? Do you think your roots are limited to this world? No, you have roots in a higher world. We come from a higher divine blueprint. But people can cannot acknowledge, to lose the memory or the acknowledgement that they have a soul, a higher parts of themselves that exist simultaneously with us.
Right. Okay, so 2 comments on what you said, and then the last question. There's something called the Ukrainian megasites. So the Ukrainian history is one of the places in the world that's been the most wiped out, specifically that area. And there's these megasites, megalithic sites, that no one's done any research on. Kind of like, or publicly, kind of like the pyramids in China that were found and just like no one ever goes to. So it's interesting you saying those stargates there, because some sort of advanced civilization was going on there. And you want to comment on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, you will look. Yeah, thank Neil. You're so amazing. I love you, bro. You will find in a lot of these cataclysms and pole reversals and earth changes, you will find there are megalithic, paleolithic, there are stone circles around all these Stargate sites. There are worship sites, and there are stone circles and all these things around all of them. A lot of them don't exist on the surface anymore. They've been swallowed up by the earth. But just like in Bosnia, you will find these all around the world. I've seen them. I've seen the ones in China. They're just unbelievable. And they're all over the world, even the mountain in America. There are many sacred sites in the Peshla, in the Lakota country, in the heart of the Peshla, that's roped off and cordoned off. But yes, there are these sites all around, and even the crop circles most of the crop circles, I believe, especially the ones in the Vale of Pusey, they're to facilitate Stargate transit. And they first gave us an elementary sort of engineering alphabet, on how these systems work. Then they get more and more complex. Now they're hyperdimensional, the crop circles now, because they gave us an elementary alphabet first of these mechanics and dynamics of how these systems work and cosmic structure that we can use. And even if the people go out and make them, they're man-made, it doesn't mean that they weren't divinely guided to do it. Of course, you can tell a man-made one from the real one. They're just so perfect and geometrically precise.
Yeah, but maybe not the Hello Kitty crop circle that was made.
Maybe not that one, but then you never know. You guys can go to the it's July now. They're still up, right? They haven't.
Yeah, we're about to go. I'm going to crop circle tour in 2 weeks.
That's I'm so jealous. You guys are just really fortunate. Are there any openings, by the way,
for what?
Glastonbury, for the conference?
For this week, this year?
Yeah, for this one in August.
You mean openings to what? Speak?
Oh no openings, because I'll come. No openings are for people to register. I'm sure there's a lot of people still on the fence.
We have 78 people for 3-day passes right now. We have 38 one-day passes. We can fit 150. So we got.
Oh, that's right, and people can do this virtually online.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That can enjoy this conference online. That's I mean, I would recommend, if you can go. There's nothing like in person, but it's an amazing thing that you actually have an option that people can enjoy it virtually. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So one comment, last question. Okay, I promise.
Okay.
All right. So the sacred prostitution thing that you're speaking about. So I've been doing tantric work ever since November. I went to the forest twice with just a tantrika, doing lots of work. And people have a misunderstanding of what tantra is. It's not really about sex. It's about the sensations of the body and all sensations and senses. And since pleasure is one of them, a lot of people go down the sexual route with it. If anything, it's more about healing from sexual trauma. And so within that, we did some temple nights where we reenacted priestess nights of ancient times. And from my understanding, that in ancient times, prostitution was actually to help bring the men back to their heart after basically their experiences, especially during wartime as well. So what you're saying is addition to this, but definitely a whole other level of it where they're bringing them to ascension. But in general, this whole industry was designed to help men connect to their heart after going to war, after battle, all this stuff. So yeah, so I just wanted to
That's exactly it. The sacred tantric, and they use very, very advanced tantric practices. Yes, to get them to come back inside so they can forgive themselves, so they can generate compassion. They were bruised, they were scarred. And when you went into the Holy of Holies or the Hole of Holes, again, these women were Benjaminite women. And Benjaminite women, they're called the abominations by the other tribes because they're the offspring of human females who they were raped. The Nephilim, let's face it, they rape these women. That's why they're the daughters and sons of rape, the Raphaim. So, but given the fact that they were the hybrids of human women and angelics, they had expanded very specialized genetic codes. And because of their specialized genetic codes, they could actually generate very special biochemistries within their body, ascension elements that people could experience, at least temporarily, model for them what they could experience when they really got down and became students of the work, And they chose these women. And by the way, they weren't like Mary Magdalene. She wasn't exorcised of 7 demons. When they're chosen to be temple priestesses, they are kept in very in environments that are chaperoned by what they call the demon priests. And when they get released from the 7th demon priest, when they're ready to get married, when they're getting married or in service to the church, to the temple, then it's called the release from the seventh demon or the seventh demon priest. These were simply their teachers, their chaperones. So there was nothing, all that garbage about Mary Magdalene being exorcised of seven demons. No, they're released from their vows of celibacy and from the stewardship and custodialship of these, what they call the demon priests. So there's a lot that's got to be understood. And where the divine feminine was superior to the lower draconian mind forces and thought forces, now we have the mother superior. You know, it's just like we were talking about before, how these things have been misinterpreted willfully by forces, by digressive forces who did not want us to understand our true origins and our true purposes for being here. And I do believe, and always will believe, that we were created to be guardians. And this goes back, closes it real nice, that the stargates, we were created as angelic humans, immortal angelic humans, to be guardians, custodians of what's called the planetary Templar. It's a part of what's in a mission called the Christos Realignment Mission, where we need to be custodians and guardians of this holy grail, this set of planetary stargates that lead to the interdimensional stargates that lead ultimately to freedom, our freedom. Freedom to love, freedom to be the revealing vehicles or pathfinders through which God can make itself known, through which we can basically allow grace to move through us into the world. Yeah.
Beautiful, Phil. So I had another question, but I'm not going to ask it. So
Okay, go ahead.
all right, sorry.
33, yes, you can do it.
Okay, yeah. So I would just want to ask one more thing about the reptilians here. You know, there's from my research and from my experience through regressions, that when we came into our galaxy through Lyra, that it was predominantly a reptilian galaxy and insectoids as well. And there were positive, negative, you know, polarized reptilians. There was dragon races that were really positive. And so now when people think of Illuminati, dark agendas, ET agenda on the planet, they always go to reptilians. And even when you mention reptilians in a way where you're not even talking negatively, but just saying it, people go to that negative thought process. So, but from what I felt in my regression and what I'm feeling is that only maybe a very small percentage of those that have ancestry from the reptilians actually are inflicting a negative agenda on Earth. But there's like maybe 95% of them that are either not interacting with us or are benevolently connected to us. Even the dragon races that don't seem to need credit for their connection to us, but are underlying this whole dimension.
You're right. It's understanding and also to develop discernment and discretion, because even the Dracos and the reptilians, they're not the top of the food chain. There are hybridized races. They're called the Weesadrak. They're insectoid, flying winged avian insect reptilian hybrids. They're really nasty. So they're not even the top of the food chain. You can go up to the 10th, 11th dimension, to the avatar levels, and there is still enough polarity that they can make choices to work against the sovereignty of other races. And that's where we get the origin of the Antichristos and the Antichristos consciousness collectives, and the collectives the Gestalts known as the Luciferians. We know the exact races. We know the composite races that are collectively known as the Luciferians, also known as the Weesadrax, Odetocron, Necromaton. How can something called Necromaton be good? You know, could you do me a favor now? Could you tie all this up? Could you do some word, man? Because I love it. I love to hear it. It would be just a great lullaby for me to go to bed now.
Dude, this is your show, man. I want you.
No, it's our show. Listen, it's the show of shows.
All right, let me
see. Gift for me, and I just want to again thank you everybody for your attention, for your love, for your supporting PTA, not the Parent Teachers Association, Portal to Ascension. And my work and all of our good work and all the good work that you're doing. Some of us are working the trenches. You don't have to work in the trenches to get this work done. So I'm just grateful to all of you, every single one of you. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, brother. All right, here we go.
Okay.
I hear Gaia crying, only dying to be reborn again, realizing there is no separation. The Illuminati government is our own projection. So why are we tripping, protesting and rejecting? Is only self-hating. We are the sons of men, goddess of Zen, sons of God, call me Zeus. Here now to choose. Linearity, ends of calendar let loose. Time is fluid. From the beginning of creation taught by the ancient druids, shamanistic, ritualistic, prolific, sickest lyricists, Atlantean crystal buried in the West, Lemurian tablets, Mount Shasta light work of fanatics. Delusional normality, where we only believe what we see. Tap into the fifth dimensional frequency, existing in multiple dimensional realities, manifesting in planetary systems to teach, a journey through the darkness taking us to the peak of duality so we can once again see clearly, remember who we truly be. Multifaceted beings, soul freeing, the pyramids would start to spin, disintegrate the word sin, wrap my crystals with copper and tin, conduct electricity electromagnetically traveling astrally through the Merkaba, speed up my aura to 3/4 of the speed of light. To enter simultaneous time, make the unconscious believe this. Glasses on my eyes to see the transit of Venus, solar flare, sun gaze. Decalcify my third eye and enter the maze, vibrationally raised. There are many pathways to the same place. The source clears in this illusionary haze. This is the end of days and the beginning of a new unconditional phase. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
God
my
bless
pleasure.
you. God bless you all.
Love
Have
you,
a great
man.
day. Okay.
Okay, bye, everybody.